All right, welcome to The Explainer. Look, if you're in tech, you already know the command line is everything. It's not just some tool, right? It's where you prove your salt. And that's never more true than when you're in the hot seat during a tech interview. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so just imagine it. You're in that technical interview, maybe the final round. The job you really want is right there. And then the hiring manager leans in and asks this question. You can feel your pulse jump, right? Because this isn't some abstract theoretical thing. This is a real-world, the system is down kind of problem. Your answer here, it's not just about what commands you know. It's about showing them how you handle the heat. But here's the good news. You don't need to be a walking encyclopedia of Linux commands to nail this. Nope. The secret is mastering a handful of really powerful tools. So today, we're going to break down the 7 essential file handling commands that will not only let you solve huge problems, but will make you look like a total pro in that interview.
All right, first things first. Just looking at files. I mean, when something's broken, a server, a network, whatever, you're usually looking at a mountain of text. Log files, config files, it's just chaos. And your first job is to dig through all that noise and find the one clue that matters without completely losing your mind. So you've got 2 main tools for this, and knowing when to use which is, well, it's a dead giveaway of your experience level. See, a beginner might just use cat for everything. And yeah, cat is perfect for peeking at a small config file. Bam, it's all on your screen. But if you try to cat a huge log file, whoosh, you've just dumped thousands of lines into your terminal, and you can't see anything. That's where a seasoned pro reaches for more. It lets you go through that same file page by page, nice and easy, so you can actually read it.
Okay, but here's where we level up. Knowing the command is one thing, but knowing how to chain them together, that's what really makes an interviewer's ears perk up. We do this with the pipe. You know, that little vertical line on your keyboard? It's like a conveyor belt. It takes the stuff from one command and feeds it directly into the next. So you could cat an error log, pipe it into grep, and instantly pull out every single line with the word fatal. You've just sifted a mountain of data for the exact needle in the haystack. That's not just knowledge, that's efficiency. It screams power user.
Okay, so we can now look at files. Let's build on that. Because reading is just part of the job. A real pro knows how to manage their entire digital workspace. We're talking about keeping things organized, safe, and running smoothly.
So, you slash into a server and you run a quick check. And you see this. 98% disk usage. Yikes. Anyone who's managed a production server knows that feeling in the pit of your stomach. Because when that disk hits 100%, everything stops. Apps crash, data gets lost. It's a full-blown emergency. And you're the one who has to fix it. Now.
And the command you're probably reaching for is RM, for remove. This is how you get rid of all that junk. Old logs, temp files, whatever's eating up all your space. It's powerful, it's direct, and it solves the problem. But, and this is a huge but, you have to be so careful. The RM command is final. There's no undo button, there's no recycle bin. When you delete something with RM, it is gone forever. Being careless with this command is how you turn a minor issue into a resume-generating event, and not in a good way.
So let's break down this little family of commands. First, you've got CP for copy. Think of this as your safety net. Before you mess with a critical file, you CP it. Simple, low risk. Then there's MV for move or rename. This is your tidying up tool. Fun fact for an interview, it's an atomic operation, which just means it won't ever leave you with a half-moved file. It either works or it doesn't. And finally, we're back to RM. The absolute key thing to mention in an interview is the -I flag. That makes the system ask, "Are you sure?" before it deletes anything. When you mention that, you're not just saying you know the command. You're saying you understand and respect risk. That's professional.
All right, now we're going to get into the stuff that really separates the pros from the amateurs. We're talking about automation. See, a good engineer fixes problems. A great engineer builds systems so those problems never happen in the first place. And that means scripting.
At first glance, the touch command looks almost useless. All it does is create a new empty file, or update the timestamp on an old one. So what, right? But in automation, it's genius. A script can touch a file called, say, job.start. Then, at the end, touch job.end. These empty files act like little flags. Other scripts can just check if the flag is there. It's a super simple and totally safe way to signal what's happening in a bigger process.
Remember that huge log file from the beginning? Trying to process that whole thing at once is going to be slow. That's where Split comes in, and it is an absolute game changer. You can tell it, hey, take this giant file and chop it up into smaller files, each with 1,000 lines. Suddenly, that monster file is a bunch of bite-sized pieces you can actually work with, maybe even process them all at once. It's how you wrestle massive data into submission.
So let's put it together. Look how these commands work as a team. Step 1, touch job.start. We've raised the flag, the job is running. Step 2, split gets to work, doing the actual heavy lifting, chopping up that big log file. And step 3, touch job.end. The flag goes up, job's finished. Other processes can see that and know it's safe to proceed. Boom! That's the heart of automation, right there. Okay, we've got our tools for looking at files, for managing them safely, and for automating tasks. Now for the grand finale. Let's combine all of this knowledge into the perfect, knock-it-out-of-the-park interview answer. It's time to put it all together. And we're right back in that interview room. The hiring manager's looking at you. But this time is different. You're not scrambling for an answer. You're not just thinking about a list of commands. No, you have a strategy. You have a professional process.
So here's what you say. You look them right in the eye and you walk them through your thought process. You say, well, the first thing I'd do is a safe, quick inspection. I'd use more to page through the end of the log without flooding my screen. For a more serious analysis, I'd probably use Split to break it into smaller, more manageable pieces. Then, before I restart any services, I'd use MV to archive that old log and Touch to create a fresh, empty one. And of course, throughout the entire process, I'd be using CP to make backups of any config files before I make a single change. You see? You're telling them your approach is systematic, safe, and efficient.
And that right there is the difference between a good answer and a job offer answer. You didn't just list commands. You explained why. You talked about handling risk with CP, about being efficient with Split, and you laid out a clear, logical troubleshooting plan. You just proved you're not just some person who knows commands, you're a professional problem solver.
So that's really what it comes down to. These 7 commands, cat, more, CP, MV, RM, touch, and split, they're not just text you type. They're your fundamental toolkit. They're the scalpel for surgery, the wrench for maintenance, the blueprint for automation. If you're serious about a career in tech, mastering these isn't optional. It's the foundation.
So there you have it. You've got the tools, but more importantly, you know the strategy behind them, the why. You're ready for that interview, and you're ready for the real job that comes after. So the only real question is, what are you going to go fix first?